Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. We're just really enjoying, the light glimmer of sunshine shots that we get every now and then. I almost didn't recognize the sun when I saw it peek on through there yesterday, but hey, welcome everyone. Welcome. Atomic Habits Wednesday. What is it? March the 22nd. And welcome. And Russell, you are the host today. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Russell Inyart, the man, the legend, the myth.
Hey, thanks, Tom. I totally appreciate it. By the way, great is it that business has absolutely turned around. So I think what I've found is a lot of people gave up in October, November, December, and we have a lot less agents, man, than we had before. And then our business has absolutely exploded the last 60 days. So I'm having trouble keeping my arms around it. With that being said, there is a program essentially in every state that if an agent has knowledge and has the understanding of all of the different programs, especially the buyer assistance programs that are available in each of your states, you are going to be a much more valuable agent, both on the sell side and the buy side. And what I'll tell you is the person I'm having on is Cal Haffa guy. He does Cal Haffa loans all the time. The program we're going to be talking about today is a Cal Haffa program. What I'll tell you about Brandon and some of the things that we've done before is I do, for those of you that know me, I do listings only. But every once in a while, you'll run into a buyer and a lender that don't know what they're doing. I'm sure that you guys have seen that. And then you end up with a problem and you're trying to close the deal at the end. Well, I brought Brandon in at the end on a number of them. And he has saved the deals, right? Because he knows every single program that is out there. He can do a quick interview with the buyer client, figure what product to put them in and save a deal. That's how Brandon and I became to know each other. And then when I saw the old program, I have a nonprofit here in California called Helping Homes. Our goal is to put low income. We started with single mothers, but then we got in trouble because we were discriminating against everyone else. So it's not just single mothers, it's single parents, as well as low income folks with disabilities, and our former veterans are all the folks that we service. Thanks to those of you that donated the last time. And we were using the 17% down payment program. So those of you that know that program, it was the buyer came in with 3%. The state of California came in with 17%. Right. And then at the end, it was basically a 17% zero interest loan. And at the end, when the seller sold the property, the state of California participated in 17% of the equity. Well, over the last handful of months, they've had a bunch of board meetings where we have talked about what do these people really need? Well, the number one thing for any buyer to overcome is the down payment, saving for that down payment. A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck and they have a good income. They have a stable job, but darn it, saving for that down payment, there always seems to be a life occurrence that comes up. The car needs new brakes, right? A kid needs new braces, whatever it is, it's hard to save that down payment. Well, when I found out about this program that was coming up, even though I don't do buyers, I knew Brandon would be the guy to call because I know he would be extremely educated on it. I read through the entire bill this last week, and Brandon and I have had a couple conversations. I've watched a handful of videos, but I think it's super important for each of you in your states to understand the best programs for buyers, regardless of what they are. That being said, there's one so ridiculous that's coming out in California. It looks like there's about $1 billion of funding on it. After we've done some research, that's about 11,000-ish loans, we believe, which we think is going to be gone between 30 and 60 days. So that program, and Brandon, I don't want to steal all of us thunder, but it comes out the 28th. So talking about an action item for the folks that are on the call, if you're not in the state of California, what I urge you to do is find out what's the best program out there in the state that you're in, and we can help you do that if you don't know how to do that, and then get people looking this weekend on that program. After Brandon explains the California program, if I were you, I would call the top 10 people you think that are looking for a house that can't come up with a down payment, but that have a solid credit score and a solid job. And your goal is to get them in contract on this program before the end of the weekend, right? And so I don't want to steal too much thunder, but that would be my action item after the day is over. I would call 10 of my closest, best buyers, and I would put them into whatever program works in your state. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Brandon, who is a 15, 20-year vet in the lending industry. I'll let him go a little bit on his background before he goes, but I guarantee you he's overqualified to do what he's about to do for you guys. All right, Brendan, all yours.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Russ. Yeah, Russ is right. Whenever my phone rings and it's Russ, I know, oh boy, this is going to be a doozy here. So get to buckle up. It's game time. Yeah, so I want to talk about the Dream for All shared appreciation loan. That's the new California program that's coming out. It is designed for first-time home buyers. So the first thing to know is of what I hear most about here. I don't know if you're on your Facebook or Instagram, but you're seeing this all over the place right now. 20% of the sales price or appraised value, whichever is less. One of the number one things that I learned, I've trained on this several times in the last couple of weeks, and one of the most surprising things for me was what you can do with that 20%. So obviously a 20% down payment is huge. Most of the Cal HAFA stuff that you're seeing is a 3 to 3.5% down payment program. With this 20%, it opens up so many possibilities because of what you can do with that 20%. So you can put a full 20% down, avoid MI. That's kind of the most common or thought practice for the money. But the other option is you can really take that 20% and break it up and say, hey, I've got very little money. So I know that I do with a lot of clients that say, I want to buy a house and I've got great income, I've got great credit, but I've got $5,000 in the bank, or I've got $2,500 in the bank. Well, we can now help those people and put them in a house because we might be able to put 15% down on the house or 17% down on a house, and then have a little bit, take that extra 2, 3, 4%, whatever they might need, and cover their fees. So these people can literally get into a house now with no money down, which is again something that's unheard of, especially with those of you that have done down payment assistance programs in the past. You've seen that these people still need $6,000, $7,000 to close a loan typically. Especially when you're talking to your clients, when you're vetting your clients, definitely talk to them. And I know you are, but about their credit history and the things that, how their credit is. When you have two borrowers, excuse me, you may not know this, but mortgage insurance is actually cheaper if you have two borrowers instead of one. And it's also highly driven on these conventional products based on your credit score. So the higher the credit, the lower the mortgage insurance. You can put down, and it's also in 5% buckets, meaning you put 5% down, it's a higher mortgage insurance threshold than if you have a 10% or 15%. If you have one of those people that are could put 15% down through this program, you have two borrowers and they're first-time home buyers, which they obviously would be with this program, mortgage insurance may literally be $25, $30 a month. So you can take that extra 5% and use it to buy the rate down, because you can buy the rate down with this program as well. And their payment might actually be lower with the MI and the lower interest rates available. So something to definitely keep in mind. Talk to your lender about those options for sure. So the way it works, again, they'll give you up to 20% of the value, and you simply pay back the loan when you sell or refinance the house, and you pay back what they loaned you plus 20%. And it's really that simple. That does require an appraisal. So those of you that are familiar with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and appraisal waivers and things like that, we're not going to be able to use those probably in the future. When we go to pay these things back, they will want a full appraisal. But you'll pay back, again, what you borrowed plus 20% of the appreciation. And that means, though, let me rephrase that. If you borrow less than 20%, you pay back what it is that you borrow, whatever percentage you borrowed at. So if you borrow 10% for this program, you only pay back 10% of your appreciation. So there are different options. They do allow, these are designed for low to moderate income. So they do allow for people to come to the table with their own funds, but up to 10%. So your minimum loan to value on this program is going to be 70% loan to value. Let's see what else. Oh, the low income borrower. So I'll show you a slide. In fact, can I share my screen here, Russ? Do I have that capability? Let me see if I can.
Yeah,
do
you
this.
can.
Okay, let me see. Can you guys see this slide that I'm showing here? Did that go away? Can you see it here?
It's good.
Okay, perfect.
Should-
So low income, let me show you what this is here. So every county in California has an income limit. And here they are. And you can find these at, if you just Google CalHAFA, my home income limits, they're readily available. So these are the income thresholds. If you go to this website here, calhafa.gov, oh no, this one right here, the lookup Fannie Mae tool here, this website. This will tell you, put in your property address and it'll give you what the median income is in that area. So it's going to be very specific. Be careful to do this for each house that you're looking at. But if you are at 80% or less of the income, you get a couple of advantages. The first one is you actually get to pay back less than the 1-for-1. You pay back 75% of that. So if you borrow $100,000, for instance, you sell the house, instead of paying, you know, if you appreciation was 100,000, instead of paying back $20,000, you pay back 75% of $20,000, right? Or you would actually end up paying back 15 grand instead of 20. So do look out for the lower income. This is not a program, again, that's designed for your doctors and lawyers that are making, you know, $1 million a year. But they also get a lower interest rate. So do keep in mind those lower income. Definitely check this website here, or have your lender check this website here. You can definitely get a better deal for the clients. What else here? Oh, there is a max appreciation share. So 2.5% of what you initially borrow. If you borrow $100,000, the maximum you will ever pay back is 250 grand. Regardless of, you know, you keep this house for 30 years, it goes off to, you know, a $10 million home because you find a gold mine in the backyard, you'll never end up paying back more than 2.5 times what you borrow. One of the concerns that I have heard from people is, I don't know if I want to equity share, which frankly sounds a little silly for a person that doesn't own a home right now. But besides that point, one of the things that you don't have to sell the house to pay this back. You absolutely can refinance the property. There's actually 2 ways to do that. If you don't want to pay the loan back and you just want to refinance into a lower rate, you can do that one time. You can never pull cash out, but you can refinance this loan one time, and CalHAFA will allow you to subordinate the money that you've borrowed. The other, if you want to kind of minimize though how much you're paying back, what you're going to want to do is consolidate your loans as soon as you have the equity to do so. So you're going to be at 80% loan to value, but by the time you consolidate, you're back up to 100. So you can't do it day one. But in a year or two, especially with the way appreciation goes, 5, 10, 15% a year, you're only a couple of years away from being able to consolidate these, keep mortgage insurance gone, but minimize, you know, the earlier you do it, the less value you're going to have in that house, the less money you're going to have to repay. So the faster you can get this loan repaid, the better off you're going to be. Again, it is for first-time home buyers only. And those of you that do have experience with the other down payments that CalHAFA offers, there are ZIP programs. You've probably seen those that offer the closing costs, additional third loans. Those are not applicable for this. So don't try to add those or sell those when you're talking to your clients. Okay, so here's the income limits. I'll get those over to you. You can refinance rate term. Again, don't try to pull cash out when you're doing these, and pay it back as soon as possible. Interest rates can be found. So the interest rates on these are just, they're standard, and they can be found right at, if you Google CalHAFA rates, the first link, it'll take you here. And the interest rates are just published. They're published every single day. They're not going to be available probably weekends or holidays, but any regular business banking holiday, you'll be able to just go look at the rates. Now, not all lenders will. I will, for instance, but not all lenders will. You can actually buy these rates down, which is what I was talking about before. So definitely keep that in mind when looking at what's the best way to utilize the 20% that you have at your disposal. It's not always best to put that down. especially if you can buy the rate down more than offsetting the mortgage insurance that would be applicable. Definitely something to look at. There are income guidelines as far as debt ratios that we need to look at as well. 50% is your max debt to income ratio if you have a 700 credit score. 45 if you have a 680 to 699. 680 is the minimum credit score. And this part gets a little bit confusing, but we talked about the low income folks. So when you go to this tool here and you determine that you are at, and it's very simple, when you put in the address, it'll give you a list of the different income thresholds. And there's literally a highlighted section that says, this is your My Home Ready income limit for 80%. You look at that. If you are at or below that 80% mark, this 680 actually drops down for you to 660. So you can potentially get somebody in with a 660 score. For those that are at 660 to 699, their debt ratio max is 45%. If you are up over 700, you can go to 50. Now, another thing to keep in mind, and this is where the communication between your lender and your agents is crucial, is just because the ratio allowed is 50% does not mean that Fannie Mae is going to pass your client at 50%. You must have an approved eligible Fannie Mae finding on this product. Freddie Mac is traditionally much more willing to go up over 45, but Freddie Mac findings are not acceptable for this program. You have to use Fannie Mae. So just be careful when you're working with those borrowers that are teetering on that 45, because I know with my clients, they want to know, they're stretching every single penny to buy the biggest house they possibly can. So be careful when you're doing this pre-approval, when you're working with your lender, make sure that they're not just saying, oh, yeah, 50%, okay, we're under that threshold. They still have to have the Fannie Mae approve eligible findings to get this. The non-traditional credit is not accepted. You have to have a credit score, so you can't use things like rent, which some Fannie Mae products now do. This program is not accepting that. So you can't use rent, you can't use power bills, cable bills, things like that that Fannie Mae has loosened up on in other products is not accepted here. Again, if you have an agent or a lender tell you, we got an appraisal waiver, which is very common, especially with the larger down payments, it doesn't matter. With this program, at least as of right now, they are still requiring that appraisal, again, just because of the nature of the program. Another program that we've all heard a lot of over the last probably 6 months that really came out as rates went up was the 2-1 buy down. I know I've done several of those recently where the seller is contributing towards a rate buy down for a couple of years, right? That program is acceptable in conjunction with this. So that's going to be independent. It's not a CalHAPA program. It really just is the buyer setting aside the difference in payment into an escrow account for 2 years. So that is allowed, but do keep in mind as you're writing your contract, guys, the 2-1 buy down is only acceptable if it is paid by the seller. Your buyer cannot come in with their own funds to buy that 2-1 buy down. A home warranty is also required. I know those are fairly typical anyways, but do keep in mind the home warranty is required on these and specifically must cover an air conditioner, water heater, your heating element, your stove, oven, range. So those things are required. Manufactured homes are okay under this program. Again, be careful when you're looking at, because you have to have Fannie Mae's AUS approval, those are tougher to get on manufactured. So just keep that in mind. Also, please keep in mind the other things that come along with manufactured homes, 1978 or before. Just don't waste your time with it. If it's not permanently affixed, don't waste your time with it. But the fact that this is a conventional program definitely opens the door, especially to your lower income folks that are looking for the condos. That FHA is just, it seems like, has approved about 7 condos in all of America. Fannie Mae's got most of them approved. So the condos really are opened up. You can do the single family residence, obviously, in and the PUDs. And non-occupant co-borrowers, non-occupant co-signers are not allowed. So I know that again, with a lot of my other down payment assistance programs, they are allowed. So you can have a non-occupant co-borrower with the FHA stuff. You cannot with this program. If you are on this loan, if you're helping to contribute to the capacity to repay this mortgage, you will be you have to live in the house. And last but not least, borrower's education. Same education as required with the traditional CalHAFA stuff. It's the same class. I think you pay $100. People knock it out in a weekend, but they do need to get that done prior to closing. It's not something that has to be done day one, right? They can do it anytime before you close, but make sure they get that certificate. And I would say, encourage your people. If I'm talking to them, I'm definitely going to encourage my people to get it done sooner rather than later, because I have seen kind of people do it wrong. I have had people take the buyer's education class and it just be the wrong one, an unacceptable source of the program. So just be careful of that. And those are the main highlights of the program. There is a lot more to this, obviously, but this is the nuts and bolts. This is really what you need to know kind of going into this, right? I mean, this will definitely get you far enough to speak intelligently on the program. If you have any more questions, this is my information here. If you pull your phone out and scan this little Scantron here, my information will pop up. And I do have, what I just did is I simply compiled a list of kind of the main data points and put them on this slide, but I do have more paper than we could have gone over with today on this program. So if you want some more literature on it, I'm happy to send it to you. Just scan that, send me a text, send me an email, and I'll get you over all the literature I have.
Hey, Brandon, there's 3 good questions in the chat box. Question number 1, if you have a second, is
I do, yeah.
This is a great question because I don't know the answer to this after reading through the entirety of the program. Is it 20% of appreciation or 20% of net gain? For example, let's say they bought it for 5, sold it for 6, and they had to pay, we all know 40 grand in fees. So they only netted 60 grand in equity. Do they have to pay 20% of the difference between 5 and 600, or do they pay 20% of the 60 they netted?
That's a great question. And the answer that I'm going to give you is 20% of appreciation.
Okay.
And I say that because every example, well, I say that mostly because I didn't ask that question. And the safe answer is of appreciation because of all of the examples that they give. They never net out the proceeds and then give you a final number. Every example, every math equation that they've ever sent us has just said, bought for 5, sold for 6, 100 grand, 20%, boom, 20 grand.
All right. And I understand that the total amount that can be brought in to close the deal is 30%, right? Where you end up with, 70% of the property that you're paying on. Is gift money allowed for the additional 10%?
It is. Gift money is allowed. Has to be a family member. So, the same rules apply, right? Between you and I, wink, wink. It's always
for Russell a bunch of times.
I was gonna say I've done a lot of loans for a lot of cousins and those kind of folks. So that's pretty easy. But yes, gift funds are allowed for that other 10%. I don't see that coming up a ton with this, but yes, I would.
Yeah,
gift funds are allowed.
I like to be Uncle Russell. Does the buyer have to maintain the home warranty to the life of the loan, or could it just be a 1 year?
1 year.
1 year. All right. And then I do know, and I read the same thing, that it doesn't necessarily have to be first-time home buyers. It's a buyer that hasn't owned a home in the last 3 years. Is that accurate, or am I inaccurate on that?
Well, you're accurate in that is true, but it's what they say is it is for first-time home buyers only. But the definition of a first-time home buyer is somebody who has not owned a property in the last 3 years. Perfect. So whether this is your first house or 10th, as long as it's been 3 years, you're good.
And then, Brandon, what states are you guys licensed in? California or more than California?
Oh, I've got 24 licenses. So I'm all over. Basically, all the way from the East Coast, Massachusetts, Florida, Virginia, all the way to, obviously California, Oregon, Washington, Arizona, Nevada. So no, not Hawaii. Hawaii is the most tempting one. It is a brick and mortar. And so do you just pull the trigger and move to Hawaii and be the guy that maintains the branch there? I suppose one day, if it wasn't for the 3-hour time difference, I probably would have made that move by now, but.
Yeah, that's a good place to hold your annual meeting. With that
Correct.
being said, that we have about 3 minutes left. Are there any questions that somebody wants to ask out loud or, wants to put in the chat box?
I see another one here. In your opinion, what sets this apart from other loans? Honestly, the biggest difference is the amount of money that you need to get into it. Because, and let me just tell you this from a lender's perspective, Cal HAFA gives us no rebate. So when you go to Cal HAFA, I'm sure most of you have, you go to Cal HAFA rates and you see the published rate. That is just a par rate. So there's no way for lenders to make any money. Just flat out, I hate to say it any other way, but we can't make any money on it. We have to then charge the borrower. Well, then what happens? This is the same guy that's got no money, which is why he's doing down payment assistance, right? And that's really holding people back. That's why they still need $6,000, $7,000. That's why we still need those relationships with you guys when we're writing those contracts, saying, hey, write me in 3% concession, right? Write me in 4, 5, 6% concession. So this guy can pay for his fees and the points that I've got to charge to make a living, right? This program kind of alleviates that, and it gives you the opportunity to really qualify a lot more people. I mean, I took a borrower from a $450 purchase price this week to a $700,000 purchase price because we dropped MI and we reduced the amount of money she was borrowing. So those are the two main things. It really opens the door to people.
So here's the challenge that I'm going to give everybody right now. We have 2 minutes left. Your first challenge is this: the 3 people that you know that have been thinking about buying a house that have not bought a house yet, the 3, you're going to put them in a group text right now with your lender. Doesn't have to be Brandon. That does
could be, but
could be. And if you don't have a lender, Brandon sells right there. This is Don's plan, right? Don says group text messaging is how you connect people. So 3. I just did 2, so I'm going to do 1 more. I just put Brandon in 2 text messages. 2 text messages. 1 with Shani, 1 with Joseph. I'm going to think of 1 more person. So everybody get 3 text messages out to your lender and your number 1 buyer. Get them approved for this program. We'll answer these last 3 questions, and then we'll turn it over to Tom for his takeaways and let it go out. So is the payment amortized on the 80%? Not the full purchase price? I think the answer to that question is that the second loan, right? The 20%, that's 0%, no interest ever.
Correct. Yeah. So no, you're paying interest. You're just going to have a mortgage statement that shows up when you make your mortgage payment. It's just the 80% loan. It does start on the 27th. Technically, most people aren't accepting them until the 28th because the reality is we are getting our last set of guidelines on the 27th. So you know how.
Yeah. And those that came in late, there's only about $1 billion. So this is not going to become the standard. If you are late to the game, you're going to miss. That's why you need to do. That's why we had the call today. The program starts on the 27th or 28th. Let's call it the 28th. That gives you this weekend to write contracts that are 35 days long. That allows Brandon or your lender to get the loan done. Right. And if you have them shopping this weekend, this is the biggest gift the state of California has ever given. I think we're the craziest state in the country, to be honest with you. Like, who gives people money to buy a house? Like, what other state? I got a couple of the folks in my EXP group from other states going, man, I wish I lived in California right now. I'm getting these text messages. So again, make sure you text message 3 people right now. You're going to get a deal this weekend from this, right? So that's what this atomic meeting is for, is to get you in contract, in escrow. We get paid when we close deals, and you're going to be giving the best gift ever to a buyer. All right, Tom, I'm going to hand it over to you to close us out.
Okay, here we go. Well, thank you so much, Russ, Brandon. This was awesome. So, and this goes right in line with right now, we need to play offense. Yes, the market is shifting, but we need to play offense, and we need to ask questions, and we need to listen and be creative with options that we have for the sellers. And part of that is going to be covered this next Friday with previous KW team leader, top leader, Jackie McKelvin, and she's going to share how to handle objections like a boss. You're not going to want to miss that Friday. This Friday, Freedom Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific. And don't forget, we've got dialing for dollars in 15 minutes. Log in, call your clients, call your buyer, seller. We've got to play offense. You can't just sit back and batten down the hatches. So this is awesome. Well, thank you so much, Russ, Brandon. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. We'll see y'all soon. See you guys in Cabo. Let's go.